What's going on in the Lotus Sutra chapter 13 titled Encouragement to Hold Firm? This chapter is a response to chapter 11 where Shakyamuni Buddha asked the audience who can volunteer to embrace and spread the word, the teachings of the Lotus Sutra. As a response to this calling from the Buddha, many volunteers show up in chapter 13. That's what's going on in this chapter. But knowing the storyline of the chapter is not our primary purpose in this video, but rather the important thing is to ask this question. What is the implication of this interaction of calling from the Buddha and response of the audience to our everyday life? What do you think? To me, this is how you as a reader of the Lotus Sutra are invited to consider. What if you want to volunteer and embrace and spread the teachings of the Lotus Sutra? This means you will study and consider the meaning of the Lotus Sutra's core teaching of the universal Buddhahood of all beings, and to come up with your own creative way of your compassionate living as a bodhisattva to help yourself and others as your spiritual vocation. But when it comes to spreading the teaching of the Lotus Sutra, the Sutra's chapter 13 says there will be 3 major obstacles that interrupt your bodhisattva practice. In this video, let's take a look at these 3 major obstacles and think about their meaning to your everyday life. Perhaps the easiest and the most effective way to understand these 3 obstacles is that we dive into the world of the Matrix, especially in the scene where the Neo in the first episode avoided 3 bullets from the Agent Smith. Let's take a look at that first. Yeah. During this fight, Neo saw some letters on each of these 3 bullets. What does each one of them say? It says, the unwise, the arrogant monks, greedy forest dwellers. These are the 3 obstacles that bodhisattvas will encounter. And here's the original text from the chapter 13, which says, after the Buddha's passing, in the midst of a fearful evil age, there will be many unwise people who insult and mock us and subject us to stick and sword. There will be monks who claim to have attained what they have not, their mind full of arrogance. Those dwelling in the forest, pretending that they walk the true path, take pleasure in exposing our faults. Okay, so probably these references in the Sutra's chapter reflect on a historical fact of that time when the Lotus Sutra's idea arose in the universal Buddhahood, and there were these kinds of critiques who were opposed to this idea because it was kind of surprising. So we will see these people today too as well. But is this only a description of a possible external reality of our everyday life? What's that implication? What do you think about this? So here's why this chapter is important to me. Because to me, these 3 enemies and obstacles are often found in my mind, in our minds. So for instance, the unwise attacking with swords could be my self-critique against myself. I may be attacking myself with my spiritual or psychological sword against myself and harming myself. So for instance, like in my PhD dissertation writing, I oftentimes have a very high expectation for myself. So when I see my writing that is work in progress, it is oftentimes disappointing. And I feel the spiral of the negative feelings and emotions and so on. So that's the unwise attacking with the sword in my heart. So I'm in a constant battle with the unwise and myself. But both are myself too. So what is important is not to eliminate that unwise part in our mind, but how to cope with by understanding the nature of this unwise. So that's the first enemy, right? How about the second and the third one? The arrogant monks, and the third, forest dwellers who are the sage pretenders. they can be also found in our minds very often times as well. So I could be arrogant, for instance, by trying to solve somebody's problem instead of listening to the person's feelings. And I could seclude myself and leave everything to the responsibility to my wife or others. So that's the kind of forest-dwelling attitude. Okay, these three obstacles could be psychological hindrances that prevent our bodhisattva practice. And then the question is, how can we cope with them? That's what my Lotus Sutra channel, this YouTube, is about, and especially what I'm learning in a Buddhist community called Risha Kosekai in their online Sunday services, study sessions I offer, and I really enjoy my discussion with my students in that Lotus Sutra lab. And if you want to try out, you're welcome to join, and so feel free to email us, finding in the description box below, and I look forward to seeing you there. Alright, thank you for watching. Have a wondrous day.